Okay, we are recording. So yeah, let's get started. Welcome everyone to today's Applied Identus Outreach call. As I mentioned a few seconds ago, probably this is going to be a short meeting. I'm just going to share a few updates, and we are going to have a presentation by Curtis about a new functionality. As usual, remember the antitrust policy notice from Hyperledger, and as well to adhere to the Hyperledger community code of conduct during this session. Also, my usual reminder, remember that we have a identus.io URL. Hi, Yuri. That is the shorthand for the Hyperledger Identus repository that has access to all the relevant links, documentation, roadmap, other repositories, instructions on how to raise bugs, request features, access to the calendar, recordings, and so on. For today's agenda, as usual, introductions, but I believe that we don't have new people today. Share a little bit of news, things that are going on the SSI space, a few updates, and finally the presentation from Curtis, and as well the usual Q&A section. Just let me check if there is anyone new here. No, I think it's the usual people, so we can continue. We have someone new, but I believe he's a bot, yeah, not taker. So, regarding news, probably you have seen this around in LinkedIn. There is a new Global Acceptance Network Foundation around. Is something that is looking interesting. There are some people that we knew very well that are working in this new foundation. I see that Daryl is leading this endeavor, and we have as well David Poltrak participating with them. So it's something that they started relatively not too long ago. They are doing like a soft launch at the beginning, but I believe that is something that is worth checking out. They are calling this the Global Acceptance Network, and it's some sort of a like a consortium, like a member-based organization. We are trying to work the aspect of building ecosystems using the decentralized identity technology. So one thing that I found very interesting and probably something that was missing in the space is that they are trying to cover this gap that they are defining like a DNS for trust or something that helps to fill that gap that we had in the SSI space that allows to build ecosystems, but not only build ecosystems, but create a relationship between the ecosystems. So they are focusing this in some sort of truth registry of truth registries. So I think the proposal is interesting. I will leave with you the link to the foundation so you can check out the information and maybe get involved if you would like to do so. Let me put the link here. So yeah, they are starting this. Hopefully at some point in the future, we will get maybe Dave to present a little bit more in depth about this new foundation to the community. But we will see. They are still getting started, but it looks very, very promising. In the matter of updates, well, this is all news, but just in case you haven't been around, there was a new release of Identus version 2.13. let me put the link to the release notes in the chat if you want to check that out. Also, we updated the roadmap in the Hyperledger Identus repository according to what was released or delivered in this release, and also some other items that are currently in development. Other news that is also a little bit old, but just in case, the sandbox agents are now using the Cardano testnet as a BDR. The agents that the Atala Prism offered before were using what we call in-memory deployment. So that was changed. So now it's connected to testnet. Other update, this comes from the conversation that we had, I think was last week, related to introductory material to SSI, that maybe we have a gap in there. So yeah, there is plenty of material on the internet that will help you understand how SSI works. So I took some time to try to find one tutorial or course that was good, but also not only good, but hopefully SSI agnostic. One thing that happens with training material is that usually is tied to a specific solution. Um, and well, it would be better for us to recommend something to the Identus community that isn't married with a particular technology stack. So there are plenty of tutorials for areas or for other SSI um, technologies. But I think it would be better to, if you're going to recommend something that is more general or high level. So I found this course is from the Linux Foundation. Let me open this. So yeah, basically it's the Linux Foundation Education Training Portal. If you come here, you can look search for LFS 178. The link will send you here directly. So this training, I was reviewing it, pretty much all of it, and it's very good. Really is a great training material. It covers a lot of the evolution of the SSA space, how it started, how it evolved, and what are the basic concepts of this technology. So what I will be doing probably later today is to add a link to this material in the Hyperledger Identus repository as a recommended thing to check out if you are completely new to SSI and would like to have this this type of training that will help you catch up with what this is about. So yeah, I think that's all the updates that I had to share for today. Just also a reminder that there is going to be a change on how the access to the meetings is done. Now that Hyperledger is what is called the Linux, well, I forgot the name, but they are doing some improvements in the tooling that they provide. So they are changing the calendar to this other tool, the SumLFX. So in the future, if you are going to want to join one of our meetings, you will need to come here to this new calendar. You can see that here they have listed all the Linux Foundation Decentralized Trust, that's the name. Here, if you are only interested in Hyperledger Identus stuff, you will need to uncheck all these things, and if there are meetings here scheduled, you can come here and register to the event. So that's a little bit different on how it was before, but that is also a change. And now I think that we can follow with you, Curtis. I think you can share your screen for your demo.
All right, great. Hopefully this works. Desktop 2. Now, can I not see what I'm sharing? That's quite annoying.
Yes.
Okay, great. So on the left, you've got my terminal. That's all pretty standard. And on the right is the code. So I'm kind of going to walk through what I'm doing on the left, talking through what's happening on the right. So this is all a pretty standard setup for our agent. But instead of doing everything through DIDCOM, it's going to do a credential issuance through OIDC. So these are just pretty bog standard setup variables. You've got the credential issuer, which has some new endpoints. So we can do things like create OIDC credential offers, which is what this fetch offer function will do. Before we get to that, as you can see here, I'm initializing the OIDC agent, which is a different export from the SDK. Usually we'd just be using SDK.agent, which does everything through DIDCOM. But we decided not to break all of that interface with the OIDC changes. So that's a separate export under OIDC agent. And then the initialize and all of those things are as you'd expect, but just without the DIDCOM required variables inside. So once you've got your OIDC agent, you can start it again, exactly the same as the other agent. And then the fetch offer, this is just running through, or this is creating the offer against our established backends. But you'll probably be getting this through a QR code or some other means. But once you've got the raw offer, you can then call parse credential offer with the raw offer, which just is validation, and it returns you a typed object. So then your offer can be used further down. I'm console logging these things out just so we can see them running on the left-hand side when I come to calling it. So once we've done all of that, then we go into the convenience flow. So there's two functions in the convenience flow. The first one is resolve credential offer. As you can see, just takes the offer and then your client ID and the redirect URL, as OIDC is all done through OAuth. So once you post off to the authorization server and have validated there, you'll end up coming back to wherever you want, but we'll have to kind of hack that step as we're doing this in a terminal. So if I run this now, we should get to the point. There we go. So we're getting all the gubbins logged out. As you can see, we've got our offer here. It's just as a basic demo offer set up against our back end. So our credential issuer is our local host, etc. Configuration ID is just student profile. Again, this is all demo. And then the grants, we're using an authorization code grant type. And the issuer meta, so this is all fetched from the cloud agent, and it just gives you essentially the configuration to use to determine how to fetch the credential at the end of the day, but also how to deal with the authorization server. So as you can see, we've got authorization servers in there. This URL is then used to fetch the authorization server metadata, and then that tells you how to do authorization in and of itself. All of that gets wrapped up inside this function for you. You can call the functions, the individual functions yourself to fetch all of these endpoints as well, but for ease of use, we've basically just got it inside this single function. So once you've done that, obviously we pull out the login URL, which you need, which comes from this auth request. It's returned from this function. And then we console log that out, which is, if I scroll down forever, what you can see here. So assuming, let's skip the login step because I've been testing. So this should have showed a login page for me to log in, but because I've already logged in about 10 minutes ago while testing, it's remembered that I've already authorized, and then it's redirected to my URL. So you can probably see in the top host, it says it should have this URL, and then it's also got a bunch of query parameters that are used. So once you've got that, again, if this was a normal app, this would be a web page, and you'd be hooked into running your own code again. But as I'm doing it in a terminal, we're going to want to paste that in over here. Once we paste it in, as you can see, we then go into the next step of the flow. Paste that there, enter, we run through all of the next. So resolve credential request then does the next several steps for you. So it takes the offer we started with, the auth request we just used, which has a bunch of data about how this request has to be resolved. And then the URL we've just come back to. Once it's got that, it uses the access token it's been given to go back to the authorization server and get the authorization token that you need. And once it's got the authorization token, that can be used against the issuer to request your credential, which again is all done inside this function. And as you can see on our left over here, you end up with a credential coming back to you. So that is it in a nutshell. Hopefully that makes sense, and the code is helpful to look at. If anyone's got any questions, I'm obviously more than happy to answer them.
Yeah, that looks very cool. We have a question from Roberto.
Thank you. So the first question is, just to be clear, in this case, the receiver or the holder will initiate the credential request, right, for the issuer, because it doesn't get it through DITCOM or anything, right? They have to go through the OpenID flow and ask for that credential, right?
So you can do it that way. I mean, in terms of the code here, obviously we are just creating a credential offer. So there's,
Okay.
I would say there's nothing stopping you doing it that way. And similar to things like Google logging and stuff like that, then yeah, it would probably be started your side, but it could also be that an issuer has created an open offer, if that makes sense, that you could then just use. So the offer is the start point, technically, but you could create the offer yourself to start. Yeah.
Okay, so that's what I want to kind of be clear about. So for example, what do you mean about an open offer? So is this that like the server side will have an available, this is what I can issue, right? Available offers. And then the client side or the holder will say, okay, I want this one. And then the backend kind of checks whatever they granted or not, right? And then continues the flow. Is that correct?
Yeah, that sounds about right.
All right. Cool.
Okay. Anyone else with questions? No more questions for Curtis. Okay. So, any other general question about anything in particular? No, any comment? I see a raised hand.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
So about the Prism node, what's the latest version? Because on the release, it says it's 2.5, but then on the environment variables for the agent itself, it says 2.3. And I'm not sure, since it's not open source yet, there's really no way to do or to know exactly which is the latest version of the Prism node. Do you guys know?
I guess maybe Yuri.
Guys, it's easy to go to the Identus page and find the release notes for the latest version. And let me check it again. Release notes, 2.13 release. and Prism node is 250. I will send the link in the Zoom, okay?
Yeah, okay. So 2.5. And if you check for example, this is why I'm asking. If you check, I'm going to paste the link here. That by default, it's just installing the 2.3. So I don't know if 2.5 will be compatible with the agent version that is set up there.
Oh, it should be.
Should be, okay, great.
At least we tested 250 version.
Okay, so I could just update that variable and it should work.
There is a breaking change in Postgres migration scripts. So if you see some difficulties, it's better to clean up some state or do backup. So the data are similar, but the migration were optimized in this release and merge it together to speed up the startup of the Prism node and remove unnecessary data from the table.
Okay, got it. I think that's why it didn't work for me. All right. So probably because I have, a test environment and all that, and I just need to just clean everything and start from scratch basically with the latest, and that should work.
Yep.
All right, I'll try that. Thank you.
Yeah, welcome.
Okay, thanks. Anyone else? Comment, questions? No more comments. Okay, if there is nothing else to talk about, well, thank you very much for joining. We will have, as usual, the maintainer call next week. And yeah, thanks for joining today, and see you around.
Thank you, guys.
You.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye.